I'm going to show you how to get started on the front section view of the Fredericksburg cabin. I have right here a copy of what it looks like when it's completely done. I'm not going to draw the interior features. You guys can do all of that. I'm just going to get you started on how to get the structure drawn. A lot of people look at this and they don't even know where to start. So one thing I want to point out, this is one that's already been completed, but you see this 19 foot 10 dimension? I just want to point out that a lot of people see that dimension and they think they need to start off with 19 foot 10, like draw the floor level, offset it up, and then just try to get your object or your front view to fit within that dimension. And when I do this over to the side, I'm going to show you how that dimension is what it just comes out to be. If you do it correctly, it will be 19 foot 10, but I'm not starting with that dimension. You'll see what I'm talking about. First thing I'm going to do is just draw that a little rectangle over here for that base plate. It's a 2 by 4, but you know that's not really 2 inches by 4 inches. It's 3.5 inches by 1.5, and it's teeny tiny. Whenever we're looking at the butt end of a 2 by 4, we draw a little X on it, and that just lets you know you're looking at the end of it. Now I'm going to come over here and I need to draw the stud. It says it's 7 foot 8 and 5/8 inch. Just want to point out, oops, 3.5 this way, 3.5, and then 7 foot 8. Just want to point out how you type that. So 7 foot 8 hyphen 5/8. I don't need the inch symbol, it assumes inches, but anytime you've got a fraction of an inch like that you can't easily do as a decimal, that's how you would type it. So 7 foot 8 and 5/8. I've got my little stud here. I'm going to copy the one that I drew down here. It's hard to tell in the book, but there's actually 2 of them on top of each other. So one here and one there. Just looks like a little black blur in the book. But this is a good starting point. So that's my overall wall. From here, I'm going to zoom in right here, and notice in the book it's got a little arrow pointing, and it tells me to start the rafter here. If you don't start the rafter at this corner, it will come out wrong, and you'll know it. So if yours comes out wrong, this is a good starting point to look here and make sure you drew it in the right place. My roof pitch is 12/12, so I'm going to go over 12, and then up 12. And then I'm just going to type C for close, and that will bring it back to the starting point. I don't need these 2 lines anymore. Those were just construction lines. Now I've got my roof at the right pitch. I need to offset to get that rafter distance. It says it's a 2 by 10 rafter, but we're going to offset that 9.25, which is the actual size, not the nominal size. So 9.25. Notice I did that as a decimal. You can do that with architectural. It takes fractions and decimals. Alright, so I've got this rafter thickness here. What I need to get is the overhang, and I want to offset the stud, but I don't want to offset the whole thing because that's a rectangle right now. So I'll come over here and explode it just so it turns into an individual line. I don't want to have to trim out the rest of the rectangle that I didn't need. So I'm going to offset my overhang. Overhang is 1 foot. So I've got it. Now I'm going to show you my favorite command on this project, and you'll see me use it a couple of times. We're going to do a fillet. Make sure that your radius is set to 0. I'm going to go ahead and type M for multiple because I've got multiple fillets to do. From here to here, look, it just squares it right off. Here to here, and it just brings it perfectly to a little square, trims out what I don't need, extends what I do need, and I've got it. So here is the start point, at least for my roof. I'm going to come over here and draw my 22 foot line. The house is 22 feet wide, and then I'll use my mirror command and mirror from the midpoint straight up. No, I don't want to erase my source object. So now I've got both of these. Check it out. I'm going to go back to my fillet command, M for multiple. If I click here and click there, it brings it to a perfect point. Click here, click there. Looking good. If I were to go do a linear dimension right now, it is not going to be that 19 foot 10. Notice it's 19 foot 10 and 3/4. That's because it needs to be kind of cut off. I've got that beam, that ridge beam to put in here, and then I'm going to trim the point off, so it's going to have a little flat top to it. So I'm going to come over here and draw that ridge beam. It says it's a 2 by 14, which is really 1.5 by 13 1/4. Go ahead and draw my lines on it, my little X. And I'm going to move it into place. So I'm going to pick this guy up and move it from the top midpoint, and then I'm just going to snap it right there to that end point. That gets it into the right place. I just need to move it down a little bit. So I'm going to use that move command, and I'm going to pick it up here, and I'm going to snap it to where this intersection is, so that it's perfectly tangent to the rafter. So I'll move it from here to right there where it intersects. Now I can do my trim command, trim to this, get rid of that. There's my little flat top. And then when I come back over here, I need to trim that part out too. Notice how it hangs down a little bit here? That is perfectly fine. It's okay that it hangs down. What you don't want is for this to be too short, where these lines are actually going to have to cut in to get up to it. But it's okay for that ridge beam to hang down. Now I'm going to do a linear dimension. I'll click down here at my endpoint, click up here, pull it off to the side, and you see what I'm talking about. That 1910 is just a byproduct. It comes out to 1910 if you built it correctly. I hope that helped. Good luck drawing your section.